She did not know the word cold until Earth tried to kill her with it. On her home world, temperature was a suggestion, not a threat. Energy flowed through the air itself, evenly distributed, regulated by planetary fields older than her species' written history. Heat and chill existed only as abstract concepts, tools for industry and science, never as enemies. That illusion ended on a mountainside in northern Alaska, beneath a sky the color of steel, as snow drove sideways and her limbs began to fail. Her name, at least the closest translation a human tongue could manage, was Illyra. She was an envoy of the 13th Accord, sent to observe a developing species at a critical threshold. Humans. Earth. A civilization on the brink of either cooperation or catastrophe. She had been trained for everything. Radiation exposure, vacuum breaches, gravitational shear, hostile biospheres. But not this. Not cold that crept inward, stealing strength molecule by molecule. Not a planet that punished stillness with death. Her cloaking membrane flickered weakly as she stumbled, translucent skin glowing faintly beneath layers of failing adaptive fabric. The storm howled louder, a living thing, drowning out her internal system's warnings. Thermal regulation failing. Neuromuscular response degrading. Emergency extraction unavailable. Her ship, hidden beyond the ridge, was unreachable. Communications were dead, swallowed by atmospheric interference and the strange electromagnetic noise unique to Earth's polar regions. Illyra fell to her knees. Snow burned against her skin like acid. Her breath came in ragged, unfamiliar gasps. Each one felt slower than the last. So this, she thought dimly, is how it ends. Not in orbit, not in fire, but alone, freezing on a planet she came to judge. 3 kilometers away, Evan Mercer cursed under his breath as his snowmobile stalled. Come on, he muttered, gloved hands working the ignition again. The engine coughed, sputtered, then died completely. The storm was getting worse. Visibility had dropped to less than 20 meters, and the wind cut through even his insulated gear. He shouldn't have been out this far, not this late in the season, but the automated sensor array at the research outpost had gone dark, and Evan was the only one close enough to check it before nightfall. Typical, he thought grimly. Humans build machines. Nature reminds them who's in charge. He glanced at his wrist display. No signal. The storm was blocking satellites. Great. He considered turning back on foot, but then he saw it. A shape in the snow. At first, he thought it was debris, maybe part of a down drone. Then it moved. Evan's heart jumped into his throat. Hey, he shouted, voice ripped away by the wind. He broke into a run, boots sinking deep as he fought toward the figure. As he got closer, disbelief overtook fear. It was a woman, or something very close to one. She was on her knees, swaying, skin faintly luminous beneath torn, strange-looking fabric. No parka, no visible survival gear. Just her, and the storm trying to erase her. Jesus, Evan breathed. How are you even alive? She looked up at him, eyes wide and unfocused, pupils reflecting light in unnatural patterns. You, she whispered, voice thin and trembling. You are human. Yeah, he said, kneeling beside her, immediately pulling off one glove to check for injuries. And you're about to freeze to death if we don't move. She tried to stand. Failed. Her body sagged, and Evan caught her instinctively. She was light, too light, and shockingly cold through the fabric. Hypothermia. Severe. Okay, he said, forcing calm into his voice. Okay, I've got you. She stared at him as if he were an impossibility. Why? She asked faintly. Why would you? Save you? He finished, already wrapping his arms around her to block the wind. Because that's what we do. The words surprised him as much as her. He lifted her carefully, slung her arm around his shoulders, and began the brutal trek back toward the outpost, every step a fight against wind, snow, and time. Behind them, unseen, the sky pulsed once, brief, almost imperceptible, as something far above adjusted its calculations. Illyra drifted in and out of consciousness. When she was aware, pain dominated everything. Cold was no longer just a sensation, it was an invasion. It clawed at her nerves, blurred her thoughts, threatened the coherence of her being. Yet through the agony, she felt something else. Warmth. Localized. Inconsistent. But real. The human's body radiated heat inefficiently, wildly, as if wasting energy on purpose. His heart hammered against her side, fast and uneven, and his breath came in harsh clouds. He was speaking to her. Constantly. She couldn't understand all of it. Her translator implant struggled through the interference, but she grasped the intent. Stay awake. Stay with me. Don't let go. It was irrational. From her studies, humans were volatile, tribal, often violent. Capable of empathy, yes, but also cruelty on a planetary scale. The Accord's projections placed them at a 62% probability of self-annihilation within 3 centuries. And yet this single human was spending his limited strength and life heat on a stranger who was clearly not one of his own.
Why?
They reached a structure, a small, utilitarian building half buried in snow. The human forced the door open, dragged her inside, and slammed it shut against the storm. The sudden silence was deafening. He lowered her to the floor, fingers fumbling with fasteners, stripping away her failing outer layer, wrapping her in thermal blankets, activating emergency heaters. Stay with me, he said again, kneeling close, eyes scanning her face. Don't fall asleep. Her vision blurred, then sharpened. She focused on him. Evan, she said, reading his name from the data, still trickling through her implant. You should let me die. His head snapped up. What? I am not your responsibility, she whispered. My survival changes things. He stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. Lady, he said, voice hoarse. I don't care who or what you are. You were freezing. I found you. That makes it my responsibility. Something in his tone, firm, unyielding, cut through her fading consciousness. For the first time since arriving on Earth, Illyra felt something unfamiliar. Safety. Darkness took her. When she woke, warmth surrounded her. Real warmth. Controlled. Stable. She lay on a narrow cot inside the outpost, wrapped in layers, a steady hum of generators vibrating through the walls. The storm still raged outside, but it felt distant now, contained. Her internal systems slowly came back online. Core temperature stabilizing. Neurological integrity restored. External threat minimal. She turned her head. Evan sat nearby, slumped in a chair, boots still on, head tilted back against the wall, asleep. A half-empty mug of something steaming rested in his hands.
He looked exhausted.
Illyra studied him with fresh eyes. Humans up close were strange. Their skin showed every hardship, every year. Tiny scars, lines, imperfections, records of survival etched into flesh. Their beauty was not symmetry or light, but resilience. She sat up slowly. The movement made the chair scrape. Evan jerked awake instantly, eyes snapping open. Hey, he said quickly, setting the mug aside.
Easy.
You're safe. I am aware, she replied softly. He blinked. You sound better. I am, she said. Because of you. He scratched the back of his neck, suddenly awkward.
Yeah, well.
Hypothermia is a jerk. Drink this. He handed her the mug. She sniffed it cautiously. What is it?
Tea, he said.
Hot.
Sweet.
Trust me.
She did.
The liquid burned slightly on the way down, then spread warmth through her core. She exhaled, a sound halfway between a sigh and something else.
Thank you, she said.
Evan Mercer. He raised an eyebrow. You know my name, but I don't know yours. She hesitated. Revealing her identity violated several protocols. The Accord preferred observation from a distance. Intervention was complicated, but she owed him honesty. I am called Illyra, she said, and I am not from Earth. He nodded slowly, as if filing that away. Figured as much, he said. You don't exactly blend in. You are not alarmed? She asked. He shrugged. I live in the middle of nowhere, chasing sensor ghosts in a snowstorm. Weird kind of comes with the job. She studied him. You should be afraid. Probably, he admitted. But you were freezing to death. Kinda hard to panic about aliens when someone needs help. The simplicity of the statement struck her harder than any data projection. They talked as the storm raged on. She told him pieces of the truth. Not everything, but enough. That she was an observer. That Earth was being watched, evaluated. That humanity stood at a crossroads few species survived. He listened without interruption, asking questions only when clarification was needed. And you almost died because, he prompted. Because I underestimated your planet, she said. And because I did not expect to need saving. Evan smiled faintly. Earth's good at that. Making you pay for assumptions. She hesitated, then asked the question that had been forming since she woke. Why did you save me? She said. Truly. He leaned back, considering. My dad used to say, he began slowly, that the measure of a person isn't how they treat people like them. It's how they treat people who aren't. She tilted her head. Your species often fails that measure. He nodded.
Yeah.
We do. A lot. Then why uphold it? She pressed. Because someone has to, he said simply. Otherwise, what's the point of surviving at all? The words resonated deeply within her. The Accord's models did not account for that variable. The storm cleared 2 days later. By then, Illyra was fully recovered. Her ship responded at last, cloaked systems humming as they prepared extraction. Evan helped her pack, though she had little to bring. So, he said awkwardly, standing outside as the aurora shimmered faintly overhead. What happens now? She looked at him. This human who had defied projections and saved her life without hesitation. Now, she said, I report. To who? He asked. To those who decide your future, she said.
He stiffened.
And what will you tell them? She smiled, a subtle expression, but unmistakable. I will tell them, she said, that humanity is flawed, dangerous, and unpredictable. He grimaced. Doesn't sound great. I will also tell them, she continued, that when faced with a dying stranger in the cold, one human chose compassion over fear. And that choice changed my conclusion. He met her gaze. Which is, that your species is not ready to be judged, she said. Because you are still capable of surprising us. A soft hum filled the air as her ship's outline shimmered into view. Will I see you again? Evan asked. Perhaps, she said, if your species survives its winter. She stepped closer, hesitated, then did something entirely unsanctioned. She reached out and placed her hand over his heart.
Warm. Steady.
Thank you, she said, for saving me, and for saving something larger than you realize. Light folded around her. Then she was gone. Years later, when the world stood on the edge of decisions that could freeze its future forever, a quiet file circulated through channels no human knew existed. Its conclusion was simple. Subject species, humanity status, observation extended reason, compassion demonstrated under extreme conditions, and somewhere in Alaska, Evan Mercer looked up at the stars during a cold, clear night and wondered, just for a moment, if the universe had been watching him too.